All right, everyone. Welcome to episode 68 of Tiger Talk Tuesday. We've got transitioning to life after sports. We've got a very special guest tonight, Ryan John Phillips. Welcome to the call, Ryan.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Yeah, we've
Yeah,
been
I'm
trying to
right.
get on here for a few times. I'm so happy that it's finally worked out.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes anxiety society gets the best of you. So, hey, all about divine timing. So we collided when we're supposed to.
I absolutely 1,000% agree. So for those of you that are new, I'm Jeannie Chiron, your host. We have sat down with a number of athletes to navigate life after injury, retirement, or some unforeseen circumstance that forces you to hang up the jersey. Now, any transition in life is going to cause us to go through many different emotions and experiences, anything you've done for a very long period of time. We hit the topic with athletes, but as you will see and find out tonight too, especially with our guest Ryan, there are many other experiences that have molded him into who he is today, and we will dive into it. For those of you who don't know Ryan, he's an international motivational speaker on social impact topics such as mental health, human trafficking, motivation, and business. He's an author, producer, and humanitarian. His journey to extraordinary change began after a series of serious challenges that derailed his hockey career and led to his incarceration in 2002 in the United States federal prison for the distribution of 100 pounds of marijuana. He was prohibited from entering the United States and separated from the love of his life, his daughter Sadie. We will dig into that. Trying to cope with his new life, he embarked on an adventure throughout Southeast Asia, helping shed awareness towards human trafficking and child sex slavery, resulting in the manifestation of spiritual growth and social activism. Ryan was given a pardon as a humanitarian in 2012 for his efforts by the Department of Homeland Security as a free man. Amazing. In 2019, Phillips rode across 4 countries, including Canada, where he was covered by all major news media outlets, reaching millions of people with a purpose to help eliminate the stigma. Through the prisms of life, Phillips has been featured on National Geographic's hit show Locked Up Abroad, spoke on 2 TEDx talk stages on mental health and sex trafficking. He's done this all through the power of pure storytelling, overcoming many of his own issues with mental health, primarily concussions from sport. He continues to have a passion for helping anyone struggling, encouraging you to reach out if you need help. And his transparency and understanding of many of life's struggles captivates people with the power of sustained self belief and the power of a focused mindset. So, welcome.
But hey, I wouldn't mind meeting that guy for a chat.
Exactly. I'm
God,
so excited to have him
stick
here.
around.
Let's go. Let's just go dive right into your life as an athlete and then obviously take us along your journey of incarceration and all the other amazing things you have. Obviously, we can't, I feel like I could do a 3 hour interview with you with just so many things, but let's talk about your life as an athlete, and where your biggest transition happened there.
Well, I mean, I think I played every sport, but underwater badminton. Growing up, my dad, he was the first Canadian to jump 6 feet in the high jump. So I guess just came from an athletic background from the start. But hockey actually was the dominating dream, like many, many, many millions of Canadian kids. And I excelled in that. So I left home at 16. In my mind, that was way too early when I look back. But yeah, started off with the whole junior hockey thing, and injuries really got me right from the get go. That's a lot of adversity, throughout the whole. The junior hockey scene wasn't exactly fun for me.
Mm.
I did turn pro at 20, and I had close to 5 years of turbulence in professional hockey. So, and then I was so messed up with addiction and injuries and whatnot. I just hated the game that I loved so much at one time, and that so-called BC Bud boom fell on my lap, and yeah, I really lost my way, lost my footing, and was leading a very dishonest life. It definitely was like the fast lane, I guess I was attracted to, and yeah, I was just so lost at that time of my life. I didn't know who I was. The whole identity crisis. I lose hockey, then now what?
So
And
if I could just interrupt for a second. So when did you start to feel, because you mentioned you started to hate the game you loved. When you look
mhm.
back, Is there an inciting moment where you can recognize when you started to go down the wrong direction? Or did you always like
Yeah.
what changed for you that made you not start to not love hockey?
Well, I mean, I think the first moment really was I'm in a new city and I feel absolutely lost. I'm at a home where I didn't feel loved
Mm,
and, scared to go to school. And uh, my coach was a really crazy disciplinarian. I mean, do I think he was a bit over the top? Yeah, because he participated in some things that I really, look back on like that's not even human. Um, but I think it was just I remember walking into the dressing room about maybe 2 or 3 days after like making this team, and I remember like I dreamt to get to that point, like it was just oh, I'm here, and I remember having so much fear. Now I know that is
mm.
anxiety, and like oh my god, but I remember being so scared to open that door to go into the dressing room. And like this was like, my dream to play hockey. It was all coming true. And next thing you know, I'm just like, I'm absolutely freaked right out. I didn't trust the coach. I was the, youngest player on a team of 20 that was mainly, 19 and 20-year olds back then. Yeah. So I was just this young kid, and yeah, right off the bat, I was getting picked on, and those initiations aren't nice. And
Mm.
actually watching that go down and turning blind eye to some of it, but it was just, yeah, that I mean,
So
I'm
are
kind
you
of
cut
drawing
there
it
was a
out a
little
little
bit
bit,
of
but
a delay there. You were saying the coach was participated in the initiation and would turn a blind eye to it?
yeah, I mean, he knew everything that was going on,
Yeah.
and really actually he liked it. He liked seeing straight up a lot of young men suffer, and
Mm.
yeah, he had a temper on him, boy. God, I remember him frothing at the mouth when he would yell and speak, and being the young guy in the team, and I was scared. He could just sense my fear, and
Mm.
yeah, he just picked up on that, and I didn't know how to fit in. That's the thing, I never drank before leaving home. I never smoked. I never did drugs. And then that first week that I was away from home, I went to my first strip bar, my first bush party, and my first nightclub at the, like just turned 16 too. And now it's like, oh my God, what's going on here? So it's like fast lane right off the bat, trying to
Yeah.
fit in. Whoa, and
What
that,
did
that,
what advice would you have for parents and kids that are navigating that now? Now we know the world has changed a little. There's more
yeah,
awareness around these things, and I get it. And I think back to when I was in university. I'm like, thank God there was no social media,
yeah.
not to like laugh at it. But what advice would you give a young athlete heading off into something like this now? Even though things have changed, they're still being
Yeah.
what awareness would you give them?
Well, I mean, it's still a competitive market. These kids are being bred at such a young age with all the hockey specific training or whatever sport they're in. Um, I was just, ball hockey out in the front yard, and I'd skate in the summer because it was mostly taking it off.
Yeah.
But, the main thing is that, your child is leaving home. So your home life has to be comfortable and secure. And that, that kid, he's got to feel safe. And I didn't feel safe. And a lot, I'm not the only guy. I'm not playing victim here by any means, but I think home life number one. Um, Make sure that if it's their first year away from home, that kind of the cards are on the table for ice time. I mean, I was used to be the best player on the team. I was told that I was going to play lots, and my first few games,
Yeah.
I think I saw like two shifts. My first few games, I was like, "What's going on here?" I didn't know what was going. I wasn't used to that, and then
Yeah.
I did get used to that, and it was nice. But yeah, I would make sure everything's pretty transparent, and if things aren't great, yank your kid out of there and bring them home, because that's what should have, could have, would have. But if I were to do it all over again, I wanted to come home after that first week, but I was ashamed. I didn't want to let down my dad, number one, myself, and then my
Mm.
community. There's a lot of expectations. So
It's
um,
funny. I feel like would you so I love that you have the trust piece to go home. Would it be seen it makes me think of my children because I never want them to quit something because it's hard, but do you think if you were honest about what was going on, you could have had the conversation and stayed, or you really think it was that toxic that you were like, I should have been out of there? I mean,
I,
coulda, shoulda, woulda, but
straight, I mean, if there was a camera on what was going on, there would have been
yeah.
people in jail, that's
Okay.
straight up,
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
not cool at all. I mean, I look back on it and maybe I should have said something, but I just was told not to say anything, just like everybody was. And, you had to stay tight-lipped about that kind of stuff. Nothing left the dressing room, nothing that was kind of like a sacred bond between the boys.
Yeah.
And, that's not the way life should be,
No.
it set you up for a future of trust.
Yeah. No, for sure. Good advice, and I'm sorry that you had to experience that. So you're playing, you're nervous, you're anxious, you're getting exposed to everything very quickly. Um, what was next for you?
Well, I mean, I had to quit 4 homes that first year. I was in that one place for almost 2 months. It was very unclean.
Is this
Um,
like a billet home? Like a
yeah, still at home, and
okay.
I had to keep my door open at night, and I had to sleep with the light on. She's like, make sure you don't turn your light on. It was really weird.
Mm.
I'll still never get that one. And there was no food there. There was nothing to eat. So I lost almost 30 pounds in like just in 2 months of being there. I wasn't
And you didn't
eating.
tell
And,
anyone that you needed food?
I didn't say there was craft dinner and top ramen, and she was getting a check from the team every month. So obviously she was
Mm.
spending it on herself or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, there wasn't food. I was scared to open my mouth and say anything. The coach terrified me, absolutely
Yeah.
terrified. And yeah, I mean, I'm more vocal now in life. I definitely talk more, but back then I was very to
Yeah.
myself. I was just a shy kid that I hadn't seen anything yet. I hadn't experienced anything in life. And, it's definitely got my ass handed to me.
And then you just get thrown into it.
Literally.
My goodness. I know, and that's why I really wanted to start these conversations, because there are so many people that are suffering in silence. And I want them to hear these
Yes.
stories, to know that you aren't alone. There are things that others have gone through, or they can help educate you on. So thank you for your honesty. That means a lot. Okay, so your hockey career is going on. I know that there's concussions, and you mentioned
Right.
injuries and stuff like that. Where do we go from being a professional hockey player to being incarcerated? I saw the marijuana thing, but like, bridge that gap for
Yeah.
the listeners.
Well, I mean, life. And substance abuse became a big theme from the get-go. I was so scared and freaked out, and I didn't even know PTSD. I didn't know what it was, but I didn't feel right. And so I was hurt. I guess the booze right off the bat took to me because I had a me problem without knowing it. And
Mm,
that really soothed things. It took care of the pain.
yeah.
And so it took care of a lot of things. It allowed me to fit in. The only thing it didn't really take care of is making good choices. But every choice you make dictates you survive it, you get through it, and then you may be able to talk about that and give that back. But with me, I was angry at the game, angry at myself, and I just an escape. I guess the universe answered and said, "Okay, we'll put this option on his lap." And I remember being at this long story short, I was at a bar. These guys were spending all kinds of money. They knew who I was. Next thing you know, I'm at their after party. There's girls, there's cocaine, there's all this garbage everywhere that, is kind of like temptation for a young guy. And I would have been 20 at that, just turned 20. It was the summer would have been 1995. And next thing I know, I saw 250,000 cash on a bed. Oh, I wonder how they got that. It was taking weed across the border, and not even a week later, I was in a vehicle with a hockey bag going across myself, and they really pulled me in, and I felt really wanted, and this
Mm,
weird sense of like love that I felt before. And so it wasn't really a love for money; it was a love for just actually being loved and fitting in, and the money was just a byproduct of doing something really dangerous. And
yeah.
then realized that, oh my god, like marijuana is the biggest business in BC right now. And I guess I was one of the early pioneers of that business, so to speak. But I saw like how it could grow really fast.
Hmm.
Literally, money growing on trees straight up. The government's got it, but back in those early days, I look back on it, it was, we were like the first ones. We had these connections down there, and didn't feel like organized crime. It was almost like we had this little family that was just, taking a plant over across the imaginary line. We had to figure out ways to get it there.
Yeah.
And being that young and seeing that kind of money at a young age, it's like, and it's all cash. It's crazy. It's really hard to even describe that or put it into words. But next thing you know, you're young, and that amount of money is like, you can do whatever you want. And so it was like instant freedom with a price.
Yeah.
So
with a price, right?
yeah.
So you blink, you've gone through this, you've been caught or whatnot, and you're incarcerated. Like, I mean, there's one thing to leave hockey. So was that the thing that made you leave the game?
Yeah. No, well, I mean, I played half that season before I got incarcerated. And I was like, I'm just going to give hockey another shot. And I was in really good shape, actually, physically, probably the best shape I'd been in, throughout all my whole hockey career. And I hadn't been on the ice in like a year, almost a year. And I went back halfway through the season. Well, no, I wouldn't have been that. I guess maybe 8 months, 8 or 9 months or something like that. Whatever the gap was from like the previous season to 15 games left in the season, whatever it was. And I got asked to go down to San Angelo, Texas, and drove to. I said, I'm going to go. I'm going to get out of this business. I'm going to try hockey again. And I went down there, and I really enjoyed myself. And I remember taking a lot of money with me and paying for everything at the bars for the boys and everything like that. And I felt like I was playing the big shot role. But I played well, and I was like, oh, I think maybe I'll do it again next year. But then right after season, came back, and the guys were at it again with the business. It was, like temptation makes a fool out of all of us, and the means were there. And actually had a guy who played hockey with me ask me to do some driving. And so I allowed him in, and he did something that he probably shouldn't have, that put me in a position to hike weed across the border. And yeah, that was that day that I hiked, that cause and effect. I made the choice. And then what happened was he actually got stopped by the DEA at the airport, and he led the DEA right to where we came through the bush on the other side of this logging road that connected Canada to the United States. And about 10 minutes down the Mount Baker Highway, which is the major highway there on the other side of the border, nabbed, nailed, thrown out the car, guns to the head. And yeah, at 23 years old, thrown into the county jail for close to 7 days before they realized that they were going to take it federal. And then, yeah, I spent over 500 days, maximum security without seeing the light of day in prison. And yeah, the shame and the guilt that I felt in there, oh my God, just like, I mean, at one point, before I left home, I was such a high prospect and had all this potential, and how in such a really a short time, a lot happened in a short time. Just like I just burned my life to the ground. But I will say that before I went to prison, I was on a one-way with ecstasy and cocaine and all the booze and the party, the women, prison saved my life for sure. And I mean, did I do good right off the bat when I got out of there? No, I didn't. But that gap in between when I was in prison and had my freedom completely destroyed, like taken away and stripped, I met people in prison, older people that were older than me, that taught me about the law of vibration, taught me about the immutable laws of the universe and how
I love that.
Yeah, like how thoughts become things. And I was taught how to meditate when I was in there. I'd go to Bible study. I'd play. It was nuts. And I really thank God. I guess at that point I had a bit more of my personality, so to speak. I was more vocal. But in there you got to be very careful. But I'll say, while I was in there, I got along with all the races that were, the Mexicans, the African Americans. I really was always. My dad always had ethnic friends. You know what I mean, of all kinds of races, and so I never I don't have a racist bone in me.
Yeah.
And what got me through is I connected very well to other races in there. And yeah, so it was an education, to say the least. It was, it was tough. But but that was kind of just another degree, right? It was like going to
Yeah.
school.
Would you say, and it
Um,
sounds like you're forced to introspect, like how you mentally you're either going to get through it or you're not. So you make a decision that I'm going to make the best of a terrible situation, or, um, like when you
or
think about your time in jail, when was the turning point for you where you just were back on a better path? Could you have a story,
well,
like an instant that you're like, this is when you were pointed in the right direction, or it's kind of up and down?
like when I was in there, I was sober the whole time. So I'm totally clean. I'm young, I'm clean, and I'm in a so-called bad place. But, one guy said in there to me and I was quite depressed for quite a few months while I was in there. And this guy kicks on my door, brings me up to his cell. He's this little Japanese guy named Tojo. He says, he's the guy, I'm going to teach you about the law of vibration, and you tune it in. You need to tune in, can tune this shit out. Stuff. And he was like, just because you're a prisoner here right now, it doesn't mean that you have to be a prisoner of your own mind. And
Mm,
so what a profound statement. And right at that point, that was a pivotal point. Met him, trusted him, and just I'd start kind of visualizing myself in different places, even though I was in such a dark place. And the laws of manifestation never change. Just be careful what you ask for. And I was like, okay, well, hockey's over now. That was that put the nail in the coffin. But I was maybe be an actor, maybe get into film. So I had certain things I thought about, but you're surrounded by people in there. We're such a huge byproduct of our environmental influence. So yeah, it was like college for criminals. Got out with 10 times the amount of contacts than when I went in, and
yeah.
um, I was like, oh, all those thoughts about being a good boy after they fell to the wayside the second I got across the border on the Canadian side after being released.
Really, eh?
And a few days later, that I was right back at it, and building the empire bigger, better, and stronger. And yeah, more lessons to come down the pipes. And that went on for a few years, and then yeah, threats on my life, gang war in Vancouver with certain gang. I mean, it's crazy. And I lost a lot of people in my life, a lot. And addiction, murders, organized crime. I mean, I was at the top of the pyramid. And I actually I stopped drinking 20 no so yeah, it would have been 2005. So it would have been like 19 years ago. I was like, I'm done. There was so much substance abuse. I mean, I never had to pay. I knew all the guys bring cocaine in the city, so I never had to pay for drugs. It was gong show. And
Yeah.
I off at like
Yeah.
20 27. I was like, this is nuts. And after this bender, went to AA. And that was my first dose of spirituality. And
Mm,
literally, that's I mean, that first time I was clean for a little bit, so I got a glimpse. um but I think AA set the precedence for me getting out of that business, and just really walking a spiritual path. And I mean, I look back on it now. I'm like, my life, it's set up to give back. I have no choice. If I don't give it back, I'll be dead. So
yeah,
it's which
exactly. Well, and it's interesting. Have you found your way back to the hockey world at all?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because in 2009, I hadn't been on the ice for almost 10 years. And when I got out of that business, I have none of that money now, but I had a lot. And I was in really good shape, and I started getting the hockey itch again. I was like, what if I did this now, it'd be so much different. I'm 20 pounds heavier. My mindset, I got confidence. Like, the book hasn't been closed on that, because I felt so much shame and guilt for like how bad I did. Like there was no real like super great memories, to be honest. I didn't even reach 25% of my full potential. Um, so summer of 2009, actually, well, it'd been about 6 months, and I decided to make a comeback. And I rented the ice out for months and months and months in the summer here in Vancouver with all the NHL guys and junior guys, whatever. I'd rent it out, have a free skate. And I'm like, God, I'm good enough. I could do this again. You know,
You're
comparing
gonna
my,
get an invite back to the show.
yeah. Well, you know, actually, I couldn't go down to the States because of my conviction, but I got an offer to go play over in Slovakia in one of the top leagues over there in Europe in the Extra Liga. So yeah, I went over there and made the team. And yeah, God, I was better than I ever was, in great shape, good mindset. But then I realized after a few days, the bus, the trips, yeah, I was 34 at the time, and I was just like, I don't want this life. I
Mm.
don't want this life anymore. This is it. So I remember I donated all my gear and a whole bunch of sticks, and that was it. You know, I went traveled Europe for like 3 months after that.
Yeah,
But
well,
at
I
least,
mean, you've got such an interesting background. I mean, not only were you an athlete and gone through, I mean, a big experience being incarcerated and you're learning and then you're back in hockey and you're like your resume is all over and it's incredible that you've been able to sustain and come back. And that says a lot about, what's kind of going up here. And then you're on
yeah.
National Geographic and now you're biking across countries. Like, how do we get to that place?
Well, I mean, I guess just so much pain and suffering, even though like on the outside it looked like, I might have had it all materially, like traveling over the world and, like a rock star and, all the nice cars and the flashy stuff, whatever. I mean, I was in so much pain and so much like, I hated myself when I got out of that business. It was just like, oh my God, I can't handle this anymore. And I couldn't handle myself, who I became.
Mm.
So it was like, it was time to make a serious change. And so all I knew was I'm like, just give back the best you can, just do whatever you can to help people.
Yeah.
And, you put that out there, those, you kind of attract those circumstances to do that. And
So
that's
how do
what
you break
really,
away from that? Like if there's an athlete who's been exposed to this, I mean, you don't have to be an athlete to be exposed to this, but those scenarios happen more often than not. What is your advice
say
to, or
no.
if there's a pair, yeah, say no. But was there any way that you figured out like for someone to get out of that type of situation, or is there like make up a story or call a friend, or what advice would you think maybe could have gotten you out of some of those sticky situations, or you just had to run, it had to run its course for you?
Are we talking about the business that I was in?
Just the decisions and getting into drugs and alcohol and even, yes, the business itself, like saying no. It sounds like you were saying, you felt the connection and you felt the love, and it was so like you weren't. It wasn't even about the business for you. It was just being part of something.
It was the rush of getting it from point A to point B. The money was a byproduct of doing what I was doing. I mean, at the height of it, I had a chartered accountant running all my books. I had, 3 safe houses up in the richest area in Vancouver for one house for LA, the other one for Chicago, the other one for New York City. I was plugging some pretty big markets down there. And, I was running a crew of 500 people on both sides of the border, and
Yeah.
Canadian side and the US side. So it was like I had a lot of mouths to feed. And so I was like, I got myself in deep. I'm in deep. If I quit, then now what are people gonna do? But I created all this. That's the thing is I mean I co-created it, but I literally like I have created an animal that's not stopping. We're doing serious amounts of capital coming in every week, every day. It's
Yeah.
large amounts. More than like Fortune 500 companies, right?
So
Um,
how do you go from that to being in South Asia and doing all these biking tours? Like
Depression.
what was the thing that changed for you?
Well, I had a nervous breakdown. I
Yeah.
didn't know it was that back then, but I did. I'm in this big mansion and 400 people the night before partying on my dime and whatever. And I asked for that too. And next day, or 2 days, everyone's gone. I'm in this big mansion by myself and bawling my eyes out, coming down off, a lot of drugs, ecstasy, cocaine, and a lot of alcohol. And just like the loneliest feeling I'd ever felt in my life, just like so brutal. I remember just like on my knees in the shower, just I could like uncontrollable crying just the emotions that were coming to me, just like, oh my God. And at that point right there, I was like, I'm dedicating my life to service. I'm done.
Mm.
And, wasn't an easy out with people I was involved with. They're not happy campers for quite some time. So I left. I got out of Vancouver and just, I went on like a, unbeknownst to me, it was going to be a big humanitarian journey. And, I was actually doing some film work over in Southeast Asia, my first film that I intended to do and did. And I'm in this small little country called Laos, which bordered Cambodia and Vietnam. And I get this phone call from this actress gal friend of mine, and she's like, Ryan, she's like, I see what you're doing. This is so cool. You're doing this like inspirational stuff. I'm like, oh God, it was the only way for me. It was either that or 6 feet under. And anyway, she's like, well, would you want maybe put in your film shedding the positive light on giving back to child sex slavery eradication? And I didn't even know what it was. And I'm like, was it involve kids? And she said, yeah. And I'm like, okay, count me in. And next thing you know, 3 weeks later, I'm riding across Cambodia with 20 riders, other bike riders from around the world, all with the intention of helping kids that had been sold into trafficking and whatnot. And so I got an education on that real quick. I really related. It was like I wasn't. That's what the hockey culture kind of felt like to me for a little bit. Like I could feel the pain. So, anyways, ding dong.
That's okay.
I'm just kind of reliving it in my head right now. I just feel like I should be doing more.
No, you're doing
Yeah, I
great.
wrote a.
And I appreciate your willingness to just share. A lot of people wouldn't be so open about their journey. So thank you for that.
Well, God, I'm in a pretty might as well be vulnerable state. I mean, look at it. It's like we can act on these shows or whatever. We can be straight up, and this is like who I am.
Yeah.
Like this. I only know this. Like you. This is. I wear my heart on my sleeve because I always have. Even when I lost my way, it wasn't like I didn't have a big heart. I was
Yeah.
just so angry that it got channeled into the wrong direction. Anyways, yeah, just went across Cambodia there, and just so beautiful, so emotional. You just saw life from a different vantage point. And by the grace of God, the next day after going across Cambodia, the Department of Homeland Security found out that I was doing this ride and gave me a humanitarian waiver back down to the United States again, where my daughter resides. So, it just goes to show the law of increasing returns. If you're doing things that are good, you receive good in most cases, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I was given that
And
gift.
I know you mentioned in your in the introduction and the bio that you shared with me, your daughter Sadie. How is
Yeah.
that relationship now?
Well, Sadie will always be my daughter and my best friend, but where she's at right now, and unfortunately, she was missing for I don't know how many times it's been. She's addicted to fentanyl, meth,
Oh,
drugs. She's intravenous. She's put needles in her arm. She's been missing this time around for over 3 weeks. It was 5.5 before that. I thought she was dead. In and out of treatment centers, 32 psych wards, 4 attempts on her life. So
oh, I'm
Sadie has
sorry.
been a very who unfortunately went down the wrong way. And she's in the States. I sometimes beat myself up for not being there for her as much as I could. I've tried. Um, but yeah, that's a pretty touchy subject.
Yeah.
Um, very what happened with her was it was a concussion that nailed her. She was actually knocked out for almost three minutes, and she didn't finish school that year. Very gifted soccer player, and next thing you know, she's smoking weed with the wrestling team, and then next thing you know, she's smoking meth under the bridge with the Crips, and so that's not good.
Yeah, that's a
So
tough one. I'm sorry about that. Um, eh, and so you're in British Columbia now.
yeah,
You're dealing with that, obviously. Life, your motivation, you're speaking, you've got two, so you're doing this cycling, people get wind of it. You're doing TED Talks, you're doing motivational speaking, National Geographic.
yeah.
while you're going through that, does that become the new drug of choice? Like that's the like that became the filler. Like you said, you were committed to service to others, but did that really fuel you for a long time?
What, doing that, like doing the, like serving people, like was that the drug?
Like you
I just,
really feel like it, like I'm addicted to helping others, and I've always loved that, and I wear my heart on my sleeve even when I felt very lost in at different times in my life. But um, yeah, you just have such a extensive resume. I'm trying to connect the dots.
yeah, I just never looked at it like, I mean, sir, I just believe that we're all connected at the end of the day. We're, like, break down this, the physical world of existence that we live in. It's all been created and designed that we all got to live a certain way. I mean, if it wasn't this way, it would be another, we should all be helping each other out more. Um,
Yes, I 1,000%. Everybody wants to live in a community, but no one wants to be a good neighbor.
exactly. And,
Right?
there's people out there these days that say they love to give, but do they?
Yeah.
And, so I just wanted to show that, someone that took a lot and took advantage of an illegal system and truly made it an animal that was created craziness, can do the opposite. And,
Yes.
um, like, I wasn't trying to prove anything to anybody, maybe to myself, but I wasn't even looking for it wasn't about getting attention. I didn't care about that. I don't care about
Yeah.
being this. I don't care about getting attention on me. What I just wanted to, like, it felt good to give from the heart.
I love that.
And
Yeah,
so, like, why wouldn't I want to, like, feel good when I felt so
absolutely. Well, you
guilty?
go from being in a mansion to having parties with 400 people, right? I can only imagine the calmness you felt inside, kind of doing this on the opposite. What are the top messages that are most important to you that you want people to know? What do you care most about from your all this journey that you've
Well,
been on?
what do I care most about? I would have to say, God, I mean, all the people that have helped me along the way, words can't even describe the thank yous. And
Yeah.
it's been, when you look back on your life and you see where you're at, I mean, it's truly what a humble, incredible experience to come here and do certain things. And, just
Yeah.
the gift of the present moment,
Mm.
where all the power lies, yeah, I guess it is very nice and gentle.
Oh, sorry.
Um,
We just cut
I
out there
mean,
for a second. You said the gift of the present moment, and then we kind of had a delay. But what did you say after
oh,
that?
the gift of the eternal now, the present moment, where all the power lies. Where
Yeah.
we create our own reality. We're always, um, creating, whether we like it or not, right?
What?
I just,
Sorry, go ahead.
just everything that we've talked about. I'm very emotional, so I relive it as I speak it.
I'm
And
sure.
it's kind of crazy to think, like, oh, holy crap, because I'm definitely, it's I don't ask to do a lot of public. People come and ask me to do speaking. I never took a public speaking course in my life, yet I've closed 2 TED Talks. It's like, um, maybe I should be more. I think more of, like, my focus on, where my heart is right now is really, just bridging cultures,
Mm,
like, really, like, trying to connect humanity through universal oneness, that we're all connected, and you might not get along with everybody, but try. And if you don't, there's I think we can just all do more. We'll have more
yeah.
awareness to give back to our communities. And the more we do well for ourselves too, we vibrate at that higher frequency, and it betters everybody. So, just try to love yourself more. I know that's something I'm definitely trying to do these days. Hence being off anxiety pills for 5 months. It's been a nightmare. But
Yeah. So if you like, do you
yeah,
find
talk about.
that concussions from hockey? Because I've heard from other athletes that I've interviewed, that if you suffer from concussions, you are more apt to have substance abuse issues. Do you feel that that's true? I haven't done
Oh,
the research on it, but
absolutely. I,
okay.
I I drank more. is I thought I was going clinically insane. And it was later to find out these were all concussion symptoms that I never addressed.
Hmm.
And I took my first concussion. I think I was close to 10. I fell out of a tree, and the back of my back of my head, cerebellum there, rang off the ground. And I remember going the drive to the hospital. My mom took me, not being able to see, being sick to my stomach. These are all concussion symptoms. And I was like, what's going on here? I spent 3 days in the hospital there at 10. And I was never the same after that. I remember, like, I could put together a Rubik's Cube in 2 minutes before that. Simon Says I had a photographic memory, and it did something to me. My learning wasn't as good. I didn't learn the same in school. And then I started taking, I got more concussions, not just in hockey. Like the worst concussions, the worst ones, I mean, they're all bad, but the worst ones that I've sustained, and there's a huge spiritual component to those things too. Everyone I've talked to that's had these concussions, same thing, weren't in hockey. You know, I flew off the back of a motorbike at 19 with no helmet and head on the back of the pavement, never treated, you know, lucky to be alive. Another one, you know, I actually flew off a ski jump and close to 50 feet, and the ski snapped and shot me, hit me right in the forehead, knocked out again, never treated. None of these were treated. But the worst one that I ever took, I actually got sucker punched outside of a nightclub when I was 22, almost 23, and I was knocked out before the back of my head, rang off the curb. And I remember,
Ouch.
apparently I was out for well over 10 minutes, but I remember coming opened, and boom, there I am in this ambulance. Oh my God. But once again, was never treated. And I went back and played hockey that year too. And I remember, like, the puck would go to the right-hand side, and I thought it was in the left. And I took a few more cluster concussions that year. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm pulling junk out of my eye. And why am I getting migraines all the time? And then I can't handle the way I feel in my body, so I'm drinking more. Like, these are like substance abuse and concussions go hand in hand, hand in hand, because your whole physiology changes. From the you see life from a completely, see it in different ways. I mean, it's just nuts. I empathize so much. Anybody who's ever had one is enough, and to have more than one is, oh God. So yeah, I mean, they're crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
See,
I know I had a gentleman, Paul Rushforth. He says, like, he could get like a tap on the back of his head, and it's just it's that quick for him. So it's sensitive. He even pulled his kids out of sport because he's like, I'm not having them experience this later in life. So after living with concussion. So
the anger that comes out from people on concussions, I see why. Like, there's a part of me, it's like a mix between being deeply hurt and really angry that, like, my head's been rocked the way it has. Because I'm not a stupid, I'm actually quite intelligent. I say that humbly, but a lot of it is like, I feel,
I
but I
believe you.
never feel funny. But I never feel in my body. That's the thing. It's like, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. All this has happened, but I'm like, why can I feel more in my body and secure? It's yeah, these, and I don't know. It's just one of those things. You know, you do the best you can, but it's not an easy go. Concussions they're tough.
Yeah, I can only imagine everything you've been through. Is there, when you look back and to where you are today, what are you most proud of?
um, God, you know, I don't know if proud is the word, but I think the most satisfied, and just like to see that, like, change is possible, and that maybe I had a piece to play in that, was, I would say, that ride across Cambodia.
Yeah.
And, you know, just to see those, you know, young little girls, they knew why we were doing it, and just, you know, them jumping in your arms, and just, like, you know, it's just like that feeling was just like beyond joy. It was just, I just wanted that to milk that feeling forever. Probably why I did it again. Probably why I've done all these bike rides. Because that was like chasing a high in drugs. Was that first time I did it was just like, I could see how much awareness can come through action.
Mm.
yeah, so I've kind of like, oh boy, I mean, getting a little emotional even talking about it because I'm gonna going back to that moment.
That's
Like,
okay. We accept emotions here. What's coming up for you?
oh, just being around those kids and my own daughter, like what
Mm,
happened, that whole deal. Like, I didn't have any expectations. I'm just like, okay, I'm all in. I'm going to do this. And, met some of the most incredible people of my life. And then next thing I know, I'm back in a country where I hadn't been for 10 years. Next thing I know, we filmed it. My daughter's jumping on me. And yeah,
yeah.
just kind of to see where it's at right now. It could be better. That's for sure. It's
Yeah.
been an emotional
I'm
deal.
sure. And I thank you again for your honesty. I really, truly appreciate it. Um, where are you at today? I mean, I think about everything you've gone through, and I think about all the layers of emotions that us humans have, from shame and guilt to pride and excitement. And I mean, when I think about your journey, I mean, you've probably felt more emotions than most, just given all your experiences. But the gift of the experience, whether good or bad, I mean, do you struggle with shame in any of your choices in the past, or have you, it's
Yeah.
forgiven, let go? Do you deal with, because I've talked to some people that have been in situations where they have been incarcerated and they come out and they're like, today's just not a good day. Like, I just can't, we're not today. I just need, it's a hard one. And like, do you go back and
I'm
forth?
not really. I mean, I'm very storehouse of the mind is a filing bank. It's
Yeah.
10,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind. So when we're working out of the subconscious, which is the connecting link to infinite intelligence, God's source, of course, the nervous system's going to start remembering, a trauma, the body takes score, right? So, um, yeah, I mean, I look back and I'm just like, holy shit. But I mean, like, I don't know. I don't like to live in the past. I like to do the best I can to be present.
Yeah.
Move my body the best I can, and just like, I mean, I can like where I'm at today. I mean, I feel like I'm going through a massive transition right now. No anxiety pills. Yeah, like I said, booze was easy. These are tough. Um,
Yeah.
Trying to have radical acceptance for where I'm at today. Like, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, all the four pillars, so to speak. Um, I don't know. I'm gonna have to, I try to have as much faith as possible, but
Yeah.
these days I've had a year in my life, and just like the importance isn't on like doing rides. The importance isn't on public speaking. None of that. The importance for me is really trying to sanctify community and unity.
Mhm.
Really, and it's like so many people say that community, and unity, whatever. And it's like, and they make it all about themselves. I
Yeah.
don't want to do it with myself. I can't do Ryan can't do it by himself.
Yeah.
Like if I were going to do Canada all weekend on the bicycle, I would ask anybody to join me in every province. Let's do it together because together's better. It is, and I
I
could have made it
agree.
a way better experience, but I had to do it on my own to realize that.
Mm.
So I get all those things that I've done worldly, has affected me spiritually, and so where I'm at now is I really never been so connected yet so disconnected at the same time with social media and yada yada yada. Great, because you meet super good people on there because energy never lies. But I think we're at a very pivotal spiritual revival right now where so many people are becoming more awakened that we are all connected. Because it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to actually join in brotherly arms and sisterhood, right? And I just think that however you want to do it, number one, it starts with you. Uh, and, emitting those vibrational pulls, so to speak, to just be kinder and more accepting sometimes of someone that might look different or screw up or whatever, because most of the cases they're probably just dealing with something, just trying to do the best they can, wanting to be loved, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, we really, all the whole social media war in between people these days and attacking people for no reason. Half these people have never met in person.
I
Oh, he's
know.
a bad guy. I wouldn't listen. Never. Oh, have you ever met him? No. Have you ever shook hands with him? No. Okay, then how can you judge him? Oh, well, he made a post on social media, or he sent me that he heard this, or she said that. It's goddamn social media, for crying out loud. If you
Mm,
haven't met that in that person's energetic sphere, you don't know that person's heart. Yeah, we can all do great, positive, inspirational reels on Instagram
Yeah.
and National Geographic if that happens. But at the end of the day, that National Geographic thing, that's not me. My TED Talk's not me. None of it, what I've done out there in the world, is me until like I feel like I'm having a conversation with you. This is me.
Yeah.
This is me. You know, like we didn't do our interview before because I've been dealing with anxiety. My daughter's missing right now because she's a drug addict. You
Yeah.
know, like I'm a person just like, you know, whose story's been out to the world. Hey, I don't have this massive big Instagram following right now, whatever. I could care less.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
like I mean, the whole social media thing, a lot of the mental health issues to do with that because people are so strung out on their phones. You know, we live in
Yeah, I know.
the phone demic. um, but you know, it's just like I see. I don't want to be too judgmental, but the thing is like when you're looking at social media or you're looking at the news, whatever we give our focus to is expanding into our awareness, and that's what we're going to predominantly pick up on. So it's like, where do you find you know, the counterbalance, comfortable medium that's going to be healthy for you, so you can actually use social media in a healthy way. You know, oh man, I mean, I can go on a rant forever. I guess you know what, you know, going across some of these countries and what meeting all these different people. So I never even blew up on social media. I didn't even try. I think I just joined Instagram again. I had a private account when I went across Canada, but imagine if I did. You know,
Yeah.
imagine if I every day I was in like all these places and I was shouting out and picking up and doing Instagram lives. But you know what? That would have taken away from the beatitude.
Yeah, the
That would have taken
experience.
the experience of like staying in a lady's home that lost her husband 20 years prior and her son to suicide, and she's
Uh,
bawling her eyes on my shoulder because she trusts me about the mission. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And so, I mean, I was very, it was tough being done that ride. When it was all over, whew, I mean, because you take on a lot of stuff on a ride
Yeah.
like that, and you meet all those people. But it was done, I was like, oh my god, like I don't have to get up tomorrow and ride and do an interview with the CBC or the CBC, whatever. I was sad. I was like, my purpose is done. What am I going to do? You know.
Yeah.
Um, so you know, back to service. If Ryan now isn't like constantly thinking and doing service work, however that presents itself, then I'm not living. And like when I'm in that service, I don't have fear. I'm like,
Mm.
okay, well, I'm doing God's work, the right thing to do. So like I got nothing to worry about right now. He's got me.
Yeah.
And but when I'm not doing things that are, you know, helping myself, helping others, yada yada, then I feel very out of alignment.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's how we were talking about that accident I got in Southeast Asia with the 6 screws in the plate. I tell you, if I didn't think I was humble before then, I would say I'm probably almost there on the humble chart. I
Yeah.
definitely don't. I have to be talk like this in order to. My message is be humble. You know, be grateful for what you have and for even for what you don't have. Um, you know, life unfolds and it's perfect, really. At the end of the day, everything's unfolding perfectly, but we definitely can make it a lot better by focusing on good things and co-creating, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're such an inspiration. No one's perfect. We've all made mistakes. We've all made choices that we wish we could turn back time, but we can't do that. So learning from them, and I appreciate your
Yeah,
vulnerability and your willingness to learn and grow and share the tough stuff. I think it's just so important through storytelling, and that's why I started this, because two friends, and they weren't even super close friends, were found dead in their homes who got into drugs and alcohol. And I was like, why, we need to be talking about this. Like, there is a real struggle with the identity piece as an athlete, or I'm sure the identity piece in that line of work that you were doing. You know, who am I if I'm not this? And we attach our worth to so many external things, right? So
well, the power of I am too, right? I mean, I am is a direct channel to God. I am Ryan, the hockey player. No, I'm not. That was just an
yeah.
idea I was in this world. I am the drug smuggler. No, that was just another identity that I took on in this physical reality. You know what I mean? I am the humanitarian. No, I'm not. I don't even like that word humanitarian. I like good human and just be one, most of us, you
Yeah.
know. So you're a humanitarian. I'm not a humanitarian. I'm just a spiritual being having a human experience, trying to get through this life just like everybody else. That's
Yeah.
it. No more, no less. And I really just, I mean, there's so many just the labels that go on in this world. It's crazy. I mean, I was labeled bipolar. Do I fit the bill? I don't know, maybe, but I am. You know,
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's definitely, you know, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which I try to deal with. Um, the concussion stuff, yeah. But I really do believe that, you know, we can transcend all those labels. And like, why do I have to say I have this or that even right now? I mean, as long as you're aware of it,
Yeah.
it's like, you know,
What advice would you give a listener who has been stuck in this identity piece or labeled themselves in a certain story, or they think they can't change? I mean, you're the perfect example of someone who can transform their lives and um, transition to do good. What would be the one action item or two or three, if you have one that are really on your heart, but like what
well,
action items would you say to help move in that direction? It's not going to happen overnight, but
well,
what would you tell?
to change, that means that they want to change. If somebody doesn't want to change, it means they don't want to change. So I think my only advice is that be gentle on yourself. You're
Hmm.
ready. Some people are never ready. You
Yeah.
know, I could have kept, I'd be dead if I was, I mean, it didn't happen, but I would be if I would have stayed in that business. But I mean, it's just, you know, we're all on a different journey, but different. But we're all going to the same place. You know, this is
Yeah.
the journey. You know, we come into this world, we're naked, we leave, and most likely we're naked or clothes are burnt off. You know,
Yeah.
straight up. You know,
Yeah.
we live. Everything in between is an experience, and I think that not to be hard on yourself, and you know, just yeah, I mean, just have and listen to people that have been there, done that. Ask questions. If you're younger, yeah, I still ask a lot of questions because I don't know.
Me
Like
too.
I know a little bit, but I don't know it all. That's for sure. It's an inward journey. It's not about the outside. It's not about what you have. It's about what's inside. And when you have that okay, good, love, beautiful stuff going on inside, you radiate that. You radiate it outwards, and then people are going to want to help you. So it's like,
Exactly.
oh yeah, you're not alone. Oh, just ask for help. Well, so many people have a tough time actually understanding that.
Yeah.
Um, but ask help and get help. And if you need help, damn right, ask for help because it's been very hard for me. Very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
So,
What's that?
then maybe we'll have to do a part two.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, you've got an immense background, so many life experiences. I can only imagine what you've gone through. I'm grateful that you're with us. I'm grateful that you're sharing
Yeah.
your story. Thank you for joining this talk. Is there any final words or anything that we didn't touch on that you really wanted to make sure you got out in this conversation?
I think we've got a lot of today. We'll have to do part two.
Yeah, sounds good. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you. For those of you, again, this is episode 68 of Transitioning to Life After Sports. And we had the amazing John Phillips with us tonight. And he's in the beautiful BC, but he's flying to Toronto tomorrow. For those of you in Canada, maybe you'll catch him
Yeah.
on the sidewalk in Toronto. It's been a pleasure having you. Thank you for your honesty. And I look forward to seeing what you do next.
Oh, thanks. Well, hey, I'm supposed to be there for 13 days unless one of your audience can convince me to stay longer. Hey, set up a public speaking engagement. Maybe I'll stay.
There you go. It's out
There
there
you
in
go.
universe now.
Yeah, throw it out there. If it happens, it happens. All right.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Ryan.